And greetings, casual citizens, and welcome again. My name is Paul, joined as always by my illustrious co-host Jason, and we're reviewing Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 13, Such Sweet Sorrow.
Howdy, listeners. Sorry we're late.
Yeah, so obviously we normally record this live on YouTube on Thursdays after the show airs around 9:30 p.m., but we couldn't do it this week due to extenuating circumstances. So here we are. A little bit late, but we just want to give our thoughts on it anyway because a lot
Got the
happened.
finale coming up.
We're 1 week away from the season finale. Lots of stuff happened.
That's going to fix everything, Paul. It's going to fix all the continuity issues. Everybody's going to be happy. Peace will reign.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what you think is going to happen?
Yes.
It's going to fix all continuity and canon issues.
Absolutely. The Republicans and the Democrats are going to kiss and make up. Everything's going to be amazing. It's going to fix all the problems.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you know, which continuity is it going to now align with?
I think it's going to.
That's the question.
I think I don't know. You think it could just be like its own, like a third branch? We have the JJ, we have the Prime, we have this.
Well, we'll get into it a little bit later, but we got a comment on the last video, and I've been watching some other videos about Star Trek, about the Discovery and what's happening with the universe. I don't even. It raises a question of what even is Prime Timeline, and if Prime Timeline is really a thing.
And the more you were talking about it, the more I think about it, I don't hate the idea of just unshackle yourself from a half a century of lore, and maybe time is a bit fluid, and because people keep jumping around the time. There's a temporal Cold War going on. Mm-hmm. Maybe you just have to live in the moment.
Well, I mean,
maybe the Federation, Starfleet's ideals, just can't you express. No matter how much you fuck with stuff, they just these ideals are impermeable in such a way that you can't.
Except for the Mirror Universe, right?
Well, the Mirror Universe started different, right? They were Terran. There's all sorts of. Even in the 20th century, I think there were differences than there are in the main universe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think the difference is, man, somebody have to remind me. I think they covered this in Enterprise, that it diverged around at the World War III or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
I thought it was
World War
II. Yeah,
I think it was World War II.
Yeah.
Because I think if I remember correctly, in the intro they did in the Mirror Universe episodes of Enterprise, they show when we land on the moon and they plant the flag, it's the Terran flag
awesome.
instead of the American flag. So yeah, it must have been. I don't know. So what's the insinuation there that the Nazis won? Is that the implication?
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe it was even earlier than that. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Shit, for all we know, England won. And yeah, they won World War II, right? And then they didn't give up their colonies, and they just redid mercantilism, and now they own it.
Yeah, I think it actually goes back earlier than that. I'd have to go back and watch Enterprise.
I kind of thought it did too. I kind of thought it did. It was quite a ways back, but it's whatever.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and watch Enterprise. It's been a while since I've seen it. Anyway.
So you love ships, Paul. You love ships. You love them. Paul's got all the ships. He's got little figurines. They're adorable. I love them.
Yeah, I'm subscribed to the Eagle Moss Discovery. Let me know if you want to see videos about the models, because I get obviously.
Oh yeah, he can talk about them
every month.
So what did you think? But what did you think about the Star Trek next the shots of the Enterprise next to the Discovery? What did you think about the ships? What you got? We got opinions? I bet you do.
Do I have opinions on Discovery's Enterprise?
No.
Yes, I have thoughts on Discovery's Enterprise.
Hit me. Now that you've seen it in action. That's what I mean.
We won't go as in depth as they would on Trek Yards, and I think they're doing. I think a video went up today actually, so we're recording this on Saturday, April 13th. I think their video on Enterprise went up today, so go watch that for more in depth, and they have a lot more background on what it's supposed to look like and all that stuff. Because as we said multiple times, you and I not fluently versed in TOS, right?
Yet.
We haven't watched it. Yes. Actually stick around for housekeeping at the end because we have some announcements to make about upcoming stuff. But anyway, in terms of Discovery's Enterprise, what did I think? I mean, so one of the first times we see it is early in the episode, and the picture is going to be coming up here probably in a couple slides, but is early in the episode, and we see Discovery next to the Enterprise and doing some kind of Top Gun maneuver right? Where it's like
Oh, is that-
inverted and like
Yeah. Now, hey, that was the first time we saw. That was the first scene of the ships in this episode, and I guess I don't remember. Did Enterprise show up at the end of the last episode?
I don't think so. And in fact, I think it was on its way, I think they said. In fact, if you remember at the end of last episode, we were outside Bereth and there was that Cleon D7 there and Laurel was on Discovery. And then this episode starts and like they're just gone.
Yeah, so it's just a bit of a time lapse. You know what? Can I just throw a red flag out real quick?
Okay.
I know this is a bit out of nowhere.
Yep.
But it's been
this shot right here.
It's been bugging me since I saw it. Well, their plan is to jump away, or to create some distance, have them follow the Enterprise, and they get ready to set up this.
The
suit.
Enterprise follows them.
Yeah, the Enterprise follows them, but the controls follow the Enterprise.
So are we done talking about the Discovery Enterprise?
I just want to get this out of the way. I'm so sorry. Why didn't they just jump to like Kronos, where there's probably a shit ton of Klingon weapons and ships?
I know.
Right?
Why didn't they just jump to Earth?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why didn't they just jump to Earth?
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I know. One of many plot holes.
Yeah.
Why didn't they jump to Earth? Why didn't? Well, here's the thing. Would they even have needed to jump to Kronos? Because again, at the end of last episode, they were right next to Bereth, so they were in Klingon space.
It's like no one else has any incentive to help not everyone die.
I know, right? It's purely on Michael Burnham and the Discovery, right? And the Enterprise that somehow, and there's the whole other thing with this episode is they can't communicate with anybody, right? Because Section 31 took out their subspace relays. So they can't communicate with Starfleet. They only have ship to ship. It's like, okay, then how did the Enterprise know? Did they send out? Did they talk to them before?
Shit, why didn't they just spore drive to the opposite end of the galaxy?
Yeah, I know.
Or outside the galaxy, whatever.
I know, right? Like you have a spore drive, you could literally just jump away from Section 31 forever. Infinitely. You can go anywhere in the universe, apparently.
Yeah.
Like, you can certainly go anywhere in the galaxy in a matter of milliseconds. We've established that. And apparently it doesn't have any detrimental effects to Stamets anymore.
I'll say this. I will be happy to see the spore drive go if it goes.
I mean, it has to, because as long as it exists, you continue to have plot holes like this.
Yes. But back to what we were talking about with the ships. What were you saying? So they come out of they start off and they do the.
So they start off and they do the Top Gun inverted dive roll, all this nonsense. And my first impression of it was that the Enterprise is a lot bigger than Discovery. Like, it looks considerably bigger. And if you pay attention to any of the in-universe canon and all that stuff, one of the problems that people have had with the ships so far is that they were too big.
Yeah.
I don't think all of our pictures are scrolling through, if I'm honest. Some of them aren't working. So anyway, but one of the problems they had is the ships were too big. And so when you look at the size that the Discovery apparently is, and compare it to the size that the Enterprise was supposed to be in TOS, we have dimensions on the Enterprise in TOS. It's something like 50% larger or something like that. 30% larger, I think, really. And so the idea was, well, okay, why is Discovery so big? Because we know that the Enterprise has a crew of like 400 and something. They say it both in TOS and in Discovery. And they also say in Discovery that Discovery has a crew of 130. So why is it so much bigger with such a smaller crew? And then when they showed because it's a bunch of empty space inside, right? But I think the thing people were more upset about was when we've seen Enterprise all up until now, it has looked about the same size as Discovery. And so people were like, well, that's not right. That's bigger than Enterprise was supposed to be. But then you see it in this episode.
It looked smaller.
I
thought so too. Okay.
But then in other scenes, it looked the same size. And then in other scenes, it looked smaller again. And it's just like, if you look at this picture right here,
clearly,
it looks
clearly
a lot smaller.
Clearly smaller.
Right. But then you see it in other scenes, like at the end, which I had
it's so pretty though.
It is. But you see it at the end with other pictures. And it was basically, it looked the same size. Yeah. So, I mean, so we see it's just changing size constantly throughout the episode. It kind of reminds me of an Star Trek 3, the Oberth class, which is like it changes size. I don't know, 100 different
Can
times.
you describe the
bird
Oberth
of prey.
class? The bird of prey?
No.
Oh, what's
the bird of
Oberth?
prey also has like a whole bunch of different sizes.
Ah,
And doesn't make sense in Star Trek 4 how the whale fits in it and all that stuff. But no, the Oberth is the other one that you see in Star Trek 3.
remind me.
It's the one with like the flat-ish saucer section, and then it's got the star drive below it, and like the nacelles are kind of attached to the star drive.
Right,
And then it's got
yes.
those big things that hold. It's like it's carrying the star drive below
Yes,
it or something
yes,
like that.
yes.
It was the Pegasus in Next
Right.
Generation.
Yeah.
The one that was the cloaked one that Riker was on that was stuck in the asteroid. That was no birth class. Anyway, on screen in Star Trek 3, it has like 3 different sizes. And like, so like nobody really knows what size it is. And I felt the same kind of way about the Enterprise here, except for it's the Enterprise and it's not a no birth class. You know, it's not some random ship in Star Trek 3 or in the Next Generation used as a prop, right? It's the Enterprise. So it was just kind of weird that it was different sizes. But on the one hand, at first I was like, oh, it's so much smaller in the Discovery. That's kind of interesting. Maybe they're retconning this and then like they're just like, oh, it was just perspective and it was always smaller, right? It's the actual size that you remember and all that stuff. But then when we see it inside, and unfortunately we don't have the pictures to show it here because they're not working, but when you see it inside, well, first of all, the halls and corridors and everything are just Discovery halls and corridors, just made up. So they don't look exactly like Enterprise sets, but whatever. Anyway, but the bridge is the big thing. They made a bridge for the Enterprise.
Right.
And it's bigger than it was. So it's like, okay, so the Enterprise, it's bigger than the TOS set.
Right. Was it bigger than the JJ?
Well,
bridge?
no, but that's because the JJ Bridge is the fucking stadium, basically.
Oh, is it? I didn't know if they were around the same size or not.
No, the JJ and the JJ one is like totally different. But yeah, the Enterprise Bridge it's big, but then they did this weird thing where like there's like this corridor that surrounds the bridge, so there's like an inner bridge and like an outer bridge. And then like so they tried to make it look more like the size of what you recognize by TOS, but then recognize that the ship is supposed to be bigger. So instead they just added this like hallway that goes around the bridge entirely, which was not in TOS. But that's supposed to like make up the difference. Be like, oh yeah, we know the ship is bigger externally, and so like the space it has to fit in, because those bridge modules are supposedly interchangeable, right? So that would be bigger. But then we wanted to make it the place where they're all sitting look the right size, so we made this hallway, and it's just like it's weird. But the bridge overall looked interesting. I like that they definitely people have said that this is what the JJ Enterprise should have looked like, and I 100% agree.
Okay.
Inside and outside. The bridge, yes, it looks closer to what TOS did. There are some obvious nods, like the colors. In fact, Georgia makes a comment about it. She's like, orange, ugh.
I know. I like orange. It's even like school colors.
Even though it's actually technically red. Some of the graphics you see, so like the Red Alert graphics are the exact same graphics you see in the Star Trek movies. They used a lot of sound effects from TOS. I really like that. But I would say overall, what struck me about it, and particularly watching this back to back with the Orville, because the Orville came on right afterwards, so I watched it, is how unpleasant, how sterile it feels.
Mm.
And JJ had that to an exponential degree,
Right.
where that really bothered a lot of people. To me, it was like it went to such an exponential degree. I was like, okay, it's its own thing. Like this is just the world they live in. They like white and clear and lights everywhere. All right,
They can see the dirt.
Apparently, right? But this one takes like that middle ground where it's like, oh, we've got all these graphics and sound effects that you recognize, and like the colors are right, and they even do the panels up on the top.
I saw that
with the multicolor little lights and just like TOS and all that stuff. But then like the floor is like super shiny, and I'm just like, I would not want to work here.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's wearing sunglasses.
Like the more I kept watching it, I was like, it's just so bright and shiny everywhere. And then, like I said, you contrast it with the Orville, which is like that one's Next Generation style, but it feels very much more like a laid back You know, it feels like Silicon Valley 1 and like this is the workspace of the future, right? You know, it's not the sterile bullshit job environments that a lot of places still have. It's like this cool, hip, you know, we just like to lounge while we work,
It
right?
does, yeah. Feels like living room.
Yeah, and it feels homey and comfortable. And
homey.
But that makes sense.
But not homely.
Yes. But that and you know, people are like, oh well, it's a military vest and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'll get you, but at the same time, they're living on this for 5 years at a time, right? There's a different, yes, submarines go out and people live on submarines and they look sterile and all that stuff. But like, A, they don't have future technology, right? They can't warp around the universe or the galaxy. And B, you're only on a submarine for like 6 months at a time. If you were going to spend 5 years in Futureverse with replicators and all this stuff and AI, right?
Yep.
You would want it to be a little more homely. And every time I look at the Discovery Enterprise bridge, I'm just like, it looks even less inviting than the TOS bridge, which looked less inviting than the TNG bridge and the Voyager bridge and all that stuff.
For sure.
So that, you know, that's my critique from a functional standpoint. But I think from a reimagining standpoint, especially with it only being on one episode, it's not like we're ever going to see this again, most likely. I mean, they'll probably bring it back some, you know, one episode or something later. But this isn't going to be like a main set of the show. It was a faithful enough adaptation, given the look of everything else in the universe.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it too. Big fan.
So anyway, now that we spent a minute there, can we talk about one of the big problems, which is the fucking shuttles and tactical flyers?
You don't like that?
I thought
it felt very DS9 to me. Somehow.
It did.
Yeah.
When she mentioned it, when number one mentioned it, which it was great seeing number one, all that stuff. The uniforms are great.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta admit, the red ones are like the best. The red ones look so good.
Oh,
the red.
I like the gold.
Uniforms.
I like the mustard. Oh, it's so good.
I mean,
I'm
I'm a red and black fan, so the red with the black collar, like 100%, and the black pants, 100% works for me.
You know, just having different colored pants from the shirt is nice.
It's so nice
because he looks. I think what's his name? I can't. It's hard
Pike.
for me to take Pike seriously in his little jumpsuit.
They're all like that.
Little pajama outfit.
They're all like that. I will say, look, we got the scant. The scant is back. You could actually see it there in that picture a little bit. Somebody was wearing a red one. Well, I mentioned this in the last episode. Bring back the scant. Hashtag. I called it skort because I got it wrong. But hashtag bring back the scant. It worked. I totally hear it. There's an article on comicbook.com. It's an interview with some people that run the show. I forget exactly who it was, but they mentioned like the scant is coming back. You'll see it on Enterprise, and you kind of see it there. I don't even know if that's technically 100% what it is, but supposedly we'll see it more in the finale. I'm so excited. We brought back the scant.
Good job, Planet Earth.
That's right. I love the scant. I'm a big fan of scant. Anyway, the uniforms were great, but number one mentions like, oh, we got these shuttles and we upgraded them with phasers and weapons and got tactical flyers and all that stuff. So like, oh, that's an interesting thing. These tactical flyers, I wonder what they are, where they came from. So the concept I have no problem with. The problem I have is you see it at the end and there's like 600 of these things.
Sure.
Where the fuck were they keeping them?
Oh, I don't know. They could be probes that they modified.
No.
They could be replicated.
They see them. They literally. There's a scene at the end because I just rewatched it. There's a scene towards the end where they show like 5 of these shuttles coming out of Discovery's shuttle bay all at once, and it's like, well, that shuttle bay is not big enough for 5 of those shuttles. Well, where are they coming from? And especially considering at the shot, you can still see 2 more shuttles sitting in the Discovery.
Well, maybe they don't store them.
Where are they coming from?
Maybe they don't store them in the shuttle bay constantly. Yeah, maybe they're like under the ground of the shuttle bay. The floor opens up, they pop up. You slipped off. The next round gets loaded.
This is why Discovery is
so big. Maybe
okay,
it's fucking chock full of shuttles.
Okay, so they're all on Discovery. How did number one modify them with all these weapons and upgrades?
They talked about modifying them on the Discovery as well.
Sure, the ones that they have.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something feels sketchy.
If it hurts you, I suppose. But
we'll get back to this because there's a huge theory about everything in the timelines and stuff, and we've been putting it off. So we'll come back to it. So Sarek and Amanda. The show started with a shot of Sarek and Amanda on Vulcan. Really, Sarek.
Right.
getting some kind of, because apparently his Katra is still linked with Burnham,
Mm-hmm.
so he got some kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the first half of the episode was great, and I remember texting you about it, like halfway through, like, oh my god, this episode is so dope because there was so much stuff happening. I could have dealt without the extending pathways, like when they docked with the Enterprise, because it was like, why don't you just use transporters or apparently one of the 400 shuttles that you have?
Yeah.
Why do you need to do this stupid thing?
Right. Well, maybe there's a lot more people like the replacement doctor from TNG who just don't like transporters. What's his name didn't like transporters either, right?
Bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's just more of that.
Yeah. Okay, but apparently you got 500 shuttles laying around. And they're pretty big shuttles because we've seen the inside of them multiple times now.
Mm-hmm.
Just take a few of those.
Well, they were busy retrofitting them, or fitting them for battle.
Oh, this is stupid. They should be totally fine with transporting.
I agree. It should be. It was a cool kind of shot. It's kind of a cool shot.
It was
I was
dumb.
watching with someone else, and they were like, "Oh, that's so cool!" When the
bridge extended.
yeah, and I kind of thought it was cool too.
There was a part where I was like, I thought. I wasn't sure where they were going with it. When they're just like, oh, we're going to dock. I was like, wait. I thought they were going to dock saucer section to saucer section because the Enterprise has, or at least the refit one, has like a docking port on the side of the saucer. And I was like, oh, Discovery might have one too. And they're going to like link up side to side.
Gotcha.
And like,
I don't care.
And that would make so much more sense too, by the way.
I hear you.
Because the saucer section is where all the crew stay.
Sure. I hear you. I'm just... When it comes to docking, I'm just grateful for someone who's willing to dock with me. I don't really care which position we take.
Jason. I don't think you're making the joke that you think you are.
I am. I know I am, though.
Okay. Anyway, I don't really know how to respond to that, so we're just gonna move on. Yeah,
We can go straight into Hugh and Stamets.
Do what?
We can go straight to Hugh and Stamets from there.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No,
What did you think?
I can't.
What did you think about it? No, what did you think about the goodbye scene?
Are we really going from docking into Hugh and Stamets?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's the thing that's happening. I apologize to every one of our listeners ahead of time. That was totally unintentional. But I think I kept hoping that was going to be a moment like where they get back together, right?
Yeah, I thought it might happen. I got that feeling.
I thought Hugh was going to be like, because, he just had that discussion with Jet last episode. I thought he was going to be like, hey, this is, I do realize that we should be together or something like that.
I just like Stamets so much more than Hugh is the thing.
Well, Hugh hasn't been great this episode, but he hasn't gotten a lot of time either.
Right, and all the time they've ever spent with him is in relation to Stamets.
I know.
The interesting of the two.
Yes, they should. Well,
I say just get rid of Stamets. It's not or Hugh. I just
no.
I don't hate him. It's just
and people have speculated like, hey, he's got the he says he's going to be joining Enterprise when they get back, and some people are speculating, what is he saying, that he's joining the crew of Enterprise? I didn't get that vibe. I got the vibe of like, hey, when Enterprise gets here, I'm going over there and I'm going back with them to Earth.
Oh, I guess I thought he was going to do medical stuff over on the Enterprise now.
No, well, because that's what people were complaining about, because obviously he wasn't in TOS, so he wasn't. But then again, well, neither was number one. Well, she was, but she was a nurse.
Right.
In TOS, so it's like, I don't know.
You know what would be great is at the end of the finale, the number one's like, I think I've had enough of this. I think I'm just going to do nursing.
Yeah, I want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Well, because then in the motion picture, then she's doctor. She's
It's a future. Maybe you can go study whatever you need to study and then go be a thing.
There's an argument to be made that Madjo Barrett, the number one, that she's like I said, we mentioned it last week. She's the greatest Starfleet officer ever.
Yeah.
She was a first officer.
Yeah,
she was a nurse. She was
yeah.
a doctor. She was a computer voice. She's Betazoid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, she's big.
Beta Z?
No, Beta Z's the planet.
Oh, I got it backwards. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I tried to look smart, but it looks stupid.
Yeah, good job. Anyway, yeah. So with Hugh and Stamets, I was hoping they could get back together. I don't think he's joining the crew of the Enterprise. I think he's staying. Or I think he was just going with them like back to Earth or something like that. Like he wasn't going to sacrifice himself, because then that gets into the whole thing of apparently they all just realized they're going to sacrifice themselves, right?
Yes.
With Burnham.
Yes.
Which to me was just like, okay. Well, and this is what I was getting to it earlier. The first episode of the episode was great. I texted you, said it's all great. And then the second half starts. And it was just a whole lot of stuff I didn't need. Right? They bring back what's her name, Poe from Zahia, and we'll get into that because there's a lot of links with the short tracks and all that. But they, more importantly, it started with Sarek and Amanda coming on board Discovery to say goodbye to Michael or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it was like, again, like we talked about earlier, why couldn't you spore back to Kronos? Why couldn't you spore back to Earth to get... Okay, if Sarek knows where they are, right? So much so that he just finds them, just shows up, right? All right, send a message back to Starfleet, you know? Because they even say, like, we tried to get in contact with you through Starfleet. And then, but, you know, so then you knew that they didn't have contact with Discovery. You clearly know where she is. Just tell Starfleet, hey, here's where Discovery is. And you guys should probably send ships there because I got a feeling something's bad. And you know how I am about feelings, right? I'm pretty good with them. So it's just another plot hole. It's like, why? There's just so many over and over. And then in the second half of the episode, you get all this stuff about they're writing these stupid saccharine letters back to their family. And
that took a long time.
It took a long time.
Took a little bit much, but yeah, I guess they didn't have anything in between that and the climax, so they just padded it out.
It did. It felt like it was padded out. Because the reason I thought this was dope is because it started going so fast and so much was happening. I was like, oh, we're gonna see the end game here. My thought was at that point that by the end of the episode, she will have gone through she'll have gone into the future, and that the next episode, the finale, is just wrapping everything up and making all the timeline restoration stuff work, right? But now, with all that stuff still to happen in the finale, I feel like it's going to be like season 1 again, where you remember the season 1 finale went super fast. Like stuff just happened so fast, it didn't feel like it was earned because it was like,
right,
you blew through everything. I didn't feel any of it. I feel like the same thing's going to happen here now in the finale, unless it's like an hour and a half or 2 hour long finale.
Well, you know, they have a certain amount of episodes, right? And they have a story they want to tell. They have so much budget for what they can like make happen. So anything interesting that happens probably costs a little bit of money. So
well, and I feel like that's what I hate about this. I feel like that's where this decision came from. That clearly we're gonna get some huge battle next episode, which probably took a whole bunch of the budget, and they're like, oh well, we got to spend this, we got to have this spectacle and this budget and the finale. And I was like, for me it's like, well, it would have made more sense here
for sure.
I mean, and it would have made more sense from a storytelling perspective, but I don't even buy the whole thing of like, oh, we have to do it for money, because you're on a streaming platform and all that stuff already. You've already got the money and all that. And I mean, it's not like Game of Thrones does that. Every season of Game of Thrones, it's always the second to last episode that has the big thing in it. And then the last episode is wrapping up and setting up for the next season. Right. They should have done the same thing here, and they clearly didn't. And that gives me some concern about what's going to happen in the next episode. So anyway, what else you got?
Oh, I thought of another theory. We got this whole long list of really cool topics, but
well, okay, let's end with a theory. So let's just.
Okay.
Well, let's just run through these.
Sure.
Jet Reno, what do you think is going to happen to her?
Oh man, you know, I'm glad you bring that up, because remember whenever Pike was on the Klingon planet where he was getting the time crystal, and he says if you take this time crystal out, what you saw when you touched it is gonna happen, right? Yeah. Well, that's not also necessarily true with Burnham and Jet, right?
I think so.
Well, I mean, I hope Burnham doesn't die.
That's why Burnham didn't take the crystal.
What do you mean?
She left it. She left it. It's exactly where it was.
Oh, you mean that if you move it is the issue?
Apparently, no. I don't know what else to do with it.
No, I think what they were trying to, what the Klingon was trying to say was that, hey, if it leaves this temple with you, that's what's going to happen. Not if you just move it in space at all.
Okay, what's special about the temple? Because the temple is not where it originated. Remember, they stole it from somewhere else.
No. It's mined there. The mineral is there. It's actually
on Bareth?
Yeah, no. I'm 100% on this, man. Laurel absolutely says this, that's what's special about it, is that there's this mineral that's natural there, and they don't let it ever leave the planet.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought they stole it and brought it there.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So
well, I guess that makes more sense.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that Jet touching it, right? She gets the thing. I'm thinking she's going to show up whenever Leland boards. She's going to show up when she wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
Burnham's vision. She saves the day. I think Jet Reno is going to save the day. Hey, on that topic of Leland, real quick, this will go into my thing and we'll be done with it.
Okay.
You remember in that episode? I don't know if it was the one before this one or not. I think it was, where the nanites got magnetized to the floor.
Yep.
Well, he's got those same nanites. Why don't they just magnetize the floor when Leland shows up, and then his whole body just gets pinned to the floor?
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Again, another
I
plot
should be a
hole,
goddamn
right?
Starfleet tactical officer.
You should definitely be in the writing room of Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, and hey, you
to
can't
help
rip
avoid some of
you
these
can't
plot
rip off metal horns off my face, and so I can't breathe. I'd be exactly better at that job.
Ouch. Anyway, I also want to point out, I don't know if you noticed this, but that scene where Leland comes in and he just shoots everybody. By the way, like how can none of you hit him with your weapons?
Well, there was a giant explosion right before he walks in, and he walks in from behind him.
Okay. Apparently, you all just get gunned down by him. Whatever. Anyway, that scene, did it not remind you of the scene at the end of Galaxy Quest?
Oh shit, no, but now that you say it.
It looks exactly like it.
Oh man, they're going to activate the Omega 13.
And
that's what the suit is.
They've got a time crystal.
Oh man. I'm so down.
Yeah. I got to be honest, Star Trek Discovery, man, because there was a whole thing about last season, the tardigrade,
I know.
stealing that story.
It's just a stupid thing to steal.
Apparently, actually, there's a Star Trek Extended Universe book that covers a lot of the same territory too. Like they pulled a lot of stuff from this book, and including apparently the tardigrade was in that too, and some other things about time crystals and stuff like that come from this book. And it's like, do you guys just not have original ideas? I don't know. That's not a good sign.
I don't know. Might be. I'm fine with them pulling from.
Well, obviously using
memory.
things as inspiration.
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah, you could totally pull from the book. That's actually a good thing.
Yeah,
that's a nice nod to people, Star Trek fans who are embedded in it. But taking from some random video game or taking from Galaxy Quest, that's where it starts to feel like, all right, you're doing a little bit too much here, guys. But anyway, so you think Jet Reno is going to be? She's going to activate the Omega 13 or something? She's going to come in and she's going to stop Leland.
I'm not activating the Omega 13. I just think that she might actually just shoot Leland or something, or magnetize the floor. What if I'm right? What if she shows up and magnetizes the floor? That would be so great.
That would be good. I just think I'm hoping. They acted like she was gonna die, right? Like that's the way Tilly and Stamets were behaving. It's like, oh, she's sacrificing herself, and I'm like, all right. So we just found out she's gay last episode, and now she's gonna die. Mm-hmm. So just don't do it. Like you just can't control yourselves. Just keep doing it. But I don't think that's gonna happen.
Sure. What did you think about the Princess Kalahumano?
Poe?
Yeah, Poe.
Well, actually, let's put that one off too, because we'll get into the links with the short tracks.
Sure.
Right. So I just want to get your impressions on Georgia. Throughout the episode, I thought she was great.
Oh, she just gets better and better.
She kept making so many great quips.
Yeah.
She was like the orange, ugh.
Yeah.
And she had the ice cream. She was like, the slime in this bowl is vile.
She's such a breath of fresh air. A big fan.
It's so good.
And did you notice her face when she got handed the bowl? She looked livid.
Yeah. She was like, how dare you? Do you not know who I am? And then, she obviously, she does a great job of telling Michael like it is. And she's 100% true. She's like, you have this crazy need to take on everything by yourself and solve all these problems by yourself. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I'm not the only one that's going to notice that, and other people will take more advantage of it.
Oh, let me make you feel worse. You know what we could have done instead of all that sappy writing letters to home nonsense?
Yeah.
We had that scene with Giorgio and Michael Burnham, where Michael Burnham walks away and says, well, thanks for the nice goodbye about my personal failings or whatever.
Yeah.
And then maybe like Tilly runs into Giorgio and like she heard it and she was like, that's how my mom treats me. And it's super not fun.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the last time you talk to her. And like you get like a thing with Tilly and Giorgio.
Yes.
And then right before the battle starts, Giorgio comes back to Burnham and is like, look,
Yeah, I messed up.
I just have to rule everything. But I love you, right? Just,
Yeah, that would have been better.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I don't know if it would have gone exactly that way, but that would have been better. I just want to make a comment too about when Sarek and Amanda show up, and then Sarek is giving this whole thing about like, will you forgive me for my failures? And then Burnham says, of course. I'm like, who the fuck says that? Wait,
What?
like, look.
What?
No,
I love that.
No, awful. Here's what you say. You say like, you didn't fail.
No, but he did because he's not human. He didn't give her what she needed as a human. Humans can't be raised. Shouldn't be. I mean,
but that's why Amanda was there.
Right.
He recognized that. He made sure she had a human role model there. And B, what, like her life ended up so bad. I mean, yeah, she made a bad decision and ended up causing a war and got tried for treason and all that stuff. But even that ended up working out in her favor. She's a commander in Starfleet.
Right.
She's about to save the universe. She's got a lover. Like, it's not like her life ended up atrocious.
Sure.
Be like, I think given the fact that you brought in an orphan 9-year-old human, right, 10-year-old human, and raised her to be this good, I think you did a pretty damn good job. Stop giving Sarek so much hate. Why you? So when he says like, "Oh, apologize for my failures," I'll be like, "You didn't fail. Look, I'm doing pretty good."
I don't know everything about their relationship. I guess I figured that he was kind of cold to her. Didn't mean to be, but that's just how he is. And
right. I mean,
he
he's
was just
Vulcan.
saying, and he was just saying, "Hey, I'm sorry. I'm not your human daddy. I
Yeah,
appreciate that it probably was hard for you." And she goes, "Of course I forgive you because I love you."
Yeah, I 100% appreciate that he asked for that. That was a thing that Sarek would do.
I don't know. We all fail our loved ones. So
I know,
to ask for
I know.
forgiveness, you should say yes, of course. You recognize that they are actually saying sorry for the things that they failed.
Yes,
And you say, but
yes.
yes, of course I forgive you.
Yes, but I think you just say like, no, you didn't fail. Like everybody makes mistakes, but you didn't fail.
Paul, please forgive me for my failings.
Okay, well, of course.
There you go.
Anyway, let's see what else. Oh, the scene at the end with Pike, where he's about to transport off, and Georgia says, "I'm Terran.
Yeah.
I'm from the Mirror Universe."
Yeah.
And then he says, "What Mirror Universe?" And then he winks at her.
Yeah, he knows about it.
Okay, but what does that mean?
He talked to the Admiral about it.
Okay, so he already knew that she was Terran. I guess is that what he was winking about?
He must have got confused, asked the Admiral about it, and the Admiral told him. I guess I thought that scene actually happened, but I maybe not.
I guess I don't remember. Man, my memory's so awful. Maybe that happened, but I read that and I was just like, "Wait, is he Terran? What are they going? What are they trying to insinuate?"
No, I was
with
insinuate that he was in on it at some point. At some point,
he knew about it.
Yeah, at some point they let him know. I mean, he is friends with like the big Admiral lady.
Or
He's friends with Leland.
Now that I'm thinking about it, wait, did Ash tell him about it when they were in that shuttle?
He might have.
Okay.
Or not. I don't know if in the shuttle, but I think Ash might have. Yes, he.
Okay.
In any event,
okay,
he
that's
clearly
all that was.
knew when after she told him, and she was surprised by that. So
Okay. Well, anyway, and then the last little thing I bring up is that Lieutenant Nelson, who replaced Ariam.
yeah, poor thing.
I just don't know what they're trying to do with her.
Bless her heart.
Well, because they keep every once in a while they'll throw in like we'll just see her.
Yeah.
Like they'll focus the camera on her for a second.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? And then he makes a point. Pike makes a point of talking to, oh, you stepped in and helped for Ariam or whatever. And I'm like, it feels like we're spending a lot of time on this person who I don't even know that she's had a line yet.
Hey, Paul, you're not being fair because what he said to her was, good job filling in for Ariam.
Sure.
Which, if you think about Ariam, we got a lot of weird shots of her, and she didn't say anything. And
Touché.
yeah, so she's doing her job.
She's doing her
Doing
job.
her job. She gets weird. She gets weird camera shots. She's just very quiet. She does her job. Apparently, people like her.
That's hella meta.
Yeah.
That's hella meta. And also, like, why would she stay behind to die? Like, you've been on the ship for like a week and a half. I'm sure you don't love Burnham enough I'm sure you don't love her that much.
Yeah, she's like, I just got this bridge position.
Yeah.
I am not giving it up.
Yeah. I was on a track for command.
Yeah.
And that stuff like that is just didn't make sense. And well, of course, obviously, it's not going to blow up. So now that that's covered all the little stuff, let's get to the main thing, which is the theory, how it ties in with short treks, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, it ties in with short treks. We end up going to Zahia. We find Poe, which was related to the very first short trek, I think, Runaway. And we talked about earlier this season that I wasn't sure that the short treks were actually canon. and that I thought it was just like this was just a side thing that they're doing. Just
I
to, like,
never
have
thought
fun.
that, for the record. Never
I
thought that.
because I thought I read something like that.
Sure.
I probably did.
Oh
'cause
yeah,
it
for
just
sure.
wasn't clear.
Sure.
I mean, I couldn't have been more wrong because clearly the entire season is just tied deeply
Yes.
into those short treks now.
Yeah.
Right? So everything from Zahia and her coming back, and obviously Saru on his planet, that already happened back when we had all the stuff with the Boa'ul and all that stuff, and going through his metamorphosis. And obviously, as we talked about last season, this has to end. Their Discovery's going to go into the future. That was the Calypso episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was them, Discovery in the future with the sphere data having evolved, becoming self-aware,
Sure.
and waiting for the crew to come back, I guess, from Terra Elysium.
I hope so. That would be really
Right?
cool.
And I got to be honest, I haven't had time, but I need to go back and watch Runaway to see, because we never learned what planet he was from. But
Runaway was the one with the Poe.
yeah, Calypso.
Yeah,
that's what I
Calypso,
meant. Yeah, I need to go back and watch it again because I don't think we knew what planet he was from, and I'm wondering, was there something in there that
I think he might have said it.
said it was Terra Elysium or something like that?
He might have. We should go back and check it out.
In which case, obviously, they were successful.
Yeah.
They didn't, all sentient life wasn't wiped out. But then at the same time, was it really a good thing if this guy's at war? Because he's human, but he's never heard of Earth. Didn't have
really?
a name. Yeah, that was the whole thing.
Oh, he never heard of it.
No.
Oh, well, yeah, 1,000 years.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's just interesting to see what's going on there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you do forget places within 1,000 years. I mean, do you know where Illyria was?
No.
Exactly. No one does, right? So
I don't even know what that is.
it's a planet. It's a country back in the Roman era.
Okay. Anyway, so you had thoughts about this. Go ahead with
Oh,
your
I
thoughts.
mean, I'm kind of hoping that we start next season with the crew that stayed with Burnham, and we just kind of bebop, see what things are like 1,000 years from now. I think that'd be really cool. Future Trek.
I hope. Well, okay, but they're on a planet with no technology.
They're not on a planet.
Well, they said they're going to Terra Elysium.
They're hoping, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All I'm saying is we know this ship shows up somewhere in space, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying they were in space at some point on this ship whenever they let it go and said stay here.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm just saying maybe they get things figured out and they bebop around space in the future. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, all they would have would be shuttles. I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm saying maybe they bebop around in Discovery and then when they're done, they leave it there because there's no control to threaten them.
So you think all of Discovery from now on is going to take place 1,000 years in
Yeah,
the future?
maybe just next season. A lot of shows like this have a season where they're stuck on a planet or something like that.
Oh, okay.
That's a sci-fi trope. You get one season where you're stuck on a planet and then you get off and you do stuff. Sometimes they get stuck there for too long, but
Okay. I guess I didn't think about that. That's interesting.
yeah, it'd be different. It'd be neat.
Okay. What does that mean?
Maybe we could
for
get into the maybe they could.
timeline,
Yeah, maybe we could get into the temporal core. Who knows? It's a mystery. It'd be exciting. I wouldn't know what was going to happen.
though? Okay. Well, so I want to talk about the overarching theories that are out there right now.
Hit me.
And I'll start with a comment that we got on our last episode. Go ahead, and if you're watching this, go ahead and leave a comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff and everything. Because if you leave a comment on our reviews, on our videos on YouTube, we generally talk
Address
about
them,
in the next week. And obviously, we usually stream this live. If you watch it live, if you ask questions in chat, we address them at the end of the episode too. So anyway, we got a comment last week from Harry Pothead. Also, love the name. He says, this show is obviously prime timeline. People don't understand that. What they don't understand is that canon changed during the movie First Contact when the Borg and the Enterprise went back in time and met up with Zefram Cochrane. There was technology left behind by the Borg and was talked about in Enterprise. And after the Xindi attack, which didn't happen according to the original series history, canon changed again. The United Federation of Planets was born after a huge conflagration that killed 7 million people on Earth. And that was just the Xindi attack. We are seeing the ripple of time as it changes and alters things. This show does not take place before the Next Generation. This show takes place after Enterprise. So, after reading that comment, I saw a video on YouTube from Popcast talking about the Borg paradox. I think that was actually the name of the episode, the Borg paradox, on youtube.com Popcast. You can go watch that. And they talk about the same thing, that essentially, and I had totally forgotten this because it's been a while since I watched Enterprise, and it wasn't all that memorable, most of it. But there was an episode where they find Borg in, I think it was Alaska or Antarctica. Either in the Arctic or Antarctica. And, they wake them up and there's this whole thing. And apparently there was actually a plan with, for like a season 4 or season 5 of Enterprise, that the doctor that found the Borg, she was actually like going to be assimilated and start this whole thing. And she was going to end up being the Borg queen.
Oh, wow.
Like they were even going to bring back Alex Krieg, who played her in First Contact.
No, I didn't know that.
But of course there was no season 4 of Enterprise. So that didn't happen. But they talked about this on Popcast, that basically everything diverged then. And that the same thing that Harry Pothead here said, which is that basically when the Enterprise E goes back in First Contact and they leave the Borg technology there, this changes everything. And that's actually an explanation for why does the Enterprise look different now? Why does Discovery look different? Why does the technology look more advanced?
Maybe.
Why is it all bigger? Because the Borg exists. We the humans find them, and that changes the flow of technology.
Sure.
Throughout the entire universe.
I buy that.
Here's the problem with that, though.
Uh-oh.
Well, if First Contact had been the last thing that happened in Star Trek timeline, in prime timeline, right? Because CBS is adamant that there is just only 2 timelines.
Okay.
That there's JJ Verse, and that's its own timeline.
Yep.
And it splits at the events of
the destruction of Romulus. Oh,
no,
but
no.
on the other side. Yeah.
No, before that. It splits
the Kelvin.
The Kelvin.
Yeah.
There you go. The Kelvin timeline. And that the other timeline is what we've seen on TV in all the movies and TV shows.
Yes.
Which is the prime timeline.
Right.
So, but if that was true, that what happened in First Contact went back and altered the timeline or whatever, right? Well, we got 2 movies after that. We got Insurrection and we got Nemesis.
Yes, and I don't know why this upsets you so much, because they had to keep it. They couldn't. I mean, they're not going to change Insurrection and Nemesis so that they don't make sense with First Contact because of the direct sequel to the movie. So for all I care,
so then it's a different timeline.
No, for all I care, the Insurrection and the Nemesis are what would happen if the changes never occurred.
Okay.
Well, no, I guess not, because they are a sequel to them occurring. So fair enough. I sure. I don't know.
So it doesn't make sense. But ironically, if the statement is that what happened in Enterprise changed the timeline forever, all the people talking about Discovery is messing up the timeline. Well, technically, then it was Enterprise that messed up the timeline. Because if Enterprise had never gone and done that, right? Like, imagine Enterprise had never touched the Borg thing. Then essentially you would have said, like, hey, the Enterprise E, they go back in time. They take care of the Borg thing. They make sure that never happens. Zephram Cochrane, all of them, they keep their mouths shut. They never divulge this, so nobody knows about it because they know how this would affect the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And then the timeline just keeps going as it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, that's not going to happen because even Zephram Cochrane knowing about it, even if he never talks about it, is going to affect the way he lives his life. It can't, it could not, right?
But that's what they needed to happen.
Right. But okay, at this point then, Enterprise isn't technically consistent with TNG or TOS, and now so it's just, if that really changed the timeline, then it was Enterprise that changed the timeline. It's not Discovery, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work out.
Paul,
it can't be consistent.
This isn't the time to talk about the timeline. We don't have the time. You remember that quote?
Yes, it's from First Contact.
Yeah.
That's when she's trying. That's when
Troy.
What's her name? Troy. She's trying to get. So she's drunk, trying to get Zephram Cochrane. Anyway, it's an interesting thing. So the question is, how is this going to relate to Discovery now? if that is indeed what happened, that the Borg were on Earth back in the 21st century or whatever, and that has affected the entire timeline. Okay, so is what we're seeing in Discovery now the new Prime timeline? And so does that mean that when we get the Picard show, it's going to look different than TNG?
Right. So that's what I was driving at. Is I think it has to. I think, yes. I think if the timeline probably has changed so much now that the insurrection and Nemesis didn't happen like that or something, or slightly different, or.
So why did we get them? Why do we have them?
Because they didn't make these decisions yet. This
Not
is
to
all.
mention-
This is all
not
have
to
to be
mention-
retconned. This is all going to have to be retconned.
Apparently.
It's 50 years of Star Trek. We're going to have to retcon stuff. It upsets people in a way that I don't understand.
Well, and look, this is why I said this back when Enterprise came on. Like, you can't. This is
Speaking-
why you don't do this stuff.
Nah, speaking as a Star Wars fan, you guys, you've been pampered too long with continuity consistency. Because the rest of us over here in Star Wars land, like we just have to roll with it. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, but Star Wars in movies
yeah.
has been fairly consistent.
I don't want to get into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, I can do it right off the top of my head. Okay, when you meet Obi-Wan, he says the Jedi have been knights or been guard of the Republic for 1,000 generations, right? But we then in episode 2, he says the Republic, I will not let this Republic, which has stood for 1,000 years, be split in two. Well, is it 20,000 years or is it 1,000 years, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a retcon for that. It's called the Ruse on Reformation. It's where the last battle between the Jedi Army of Light and the Sith Brotherhood of Darkness fought on Ruzon.
Sure.
Right? And after that, they said, well, no more armies, no more galactic armies or navies, and that's what led to peace for 1,000 years. And then the separatist movement happened 1,000 years later, and that's what led to the Clone Wars. So they had to retcon it, but it was all okay in the end. But they had to retcon it outside of the movies.
Right. And all of that is more consistent than what we're getting right now with Star Trek.
Okay, but they have to because they have
On
time
screen.
travel. Well, that's because they have time travel involved.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the thing. I was always under the impression that that the timeline kept going on unaltered and that we just ignored the butterfly effect, because we see episodes of Star Trek all the time and they go back in time and they get stuck in a time loop and they redo this thing. I mean, we saw it with the Enterprise C, for example, right? And then that actually did have a ripple effect, because obviously then when later we saw the Romulan Tasha Yar daughter,
Right.
but it was all still relatively consistent. But now everything looks so different, and with the Borg if this is the Borg, which I think it has to be, it's just it's really far now, and I'm totally willing to buy it. I would love if they just came out and said no. What we started in Enterprise, that diverged, and this is a different timeline.
Yeah, they might.
I hope they do.
They promise us it will be retconned. I'm optimistic. I hope that they do something. I've liked a lot of this season. Maybe next episode will really
But
make
they've
things...
been very consistent in saying it's in prime timeline. It's I don't know.
Yeah, they
I
were
don't know
real
how you can
consistent
have
that Jon
both.
Snow was dead, too. I mean, I'm fine.
Well, but everybody knew that was going to happen.
That's not true. It wasn't until they saw... I think he... Yeah, people weren't sure.
The last book that was released, he had already been resurrected,
No,
right?
no, he has. I don't think he's been resurrected in the books at all. For sure, he hasn't. Yeah.
Oh.
The last thing that happened was the pink letter, and that was before Winds of Winter, right? And they remember Winds of Winter was an episode, right?
I don't know any of this stuff. I'm not a Game of Thrones buff.
Sorry. I'm a general lore buff.
Yeah, apparently. Which is so weird that none of this bothers you as much as it does me.
Oh, it's just because all lore is like this, unless you're going to talk about Tolkien. But even Tolkien has stuff like this where they have to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, and then, yeah. So, what do you hope happens at the end of the next episode?
What do I hope happens? I hope that we get a big crazy monologue from Leland about. I'm not sure what he'll need to say, but it'll lead into, your biological and technological distinctness will be added to mine, or he just goes crazy and he just gives this crazy maniacal speech about how the Borg is about to happen to everybody, right? So he gets an epiphany about how he can take. I can get the sphere data. Well, I'll get everything else, right? So I want that. I want a very clear allusion to him being the Borg. It'd be great if somehow they shipped him off to the Delta Quadrant in some compromised state so that he couldn't get back quickly, right? I do. I also do kind of hope that they remedy the timeline continuity stuff. I'm fine with a third timeline. I'm fine with, there's maybe they say, yeah, all this weird stuff, that's us in the temporal Cold War. We just keep making corrections to things you people fuck up. I'm fine. There's a million ways they could fix it. They just need to take the time to do it. And they might not be willing to, and that would disappoint me, but I hope that they do. How about you?
I just hope they pick a path. I think they've been playing this both sides of the fence for a long time of, yes, this is 100% in canon with TOS and all that stuff. It's in continuity. It's in timeline. And they've been saying, well, no, it doesn't look exactly the same, but it will. And it's totally going to be fine when we're done, right? Or the other option was always that this was a different timeline, right? That this was somehow there was some split. And what we're seeing actually isn't in prime timeline, and they're saying it is because they want to do something later on, but ultimately they're going to end up going with, no, it's not a different timeline. That's why everything looks different. That's why we never heard about Michael, blah, blah, blah. That's why I never heard about Spore Drive, everything like that. It just, as we get closer to the end, it feels like they're still playing both, and I worry that they're going to make some kind of weird meld of the two. Right? That it's going to be this stupid combination of like, yeah, the timeline was messed up, but Michael Burnham is going to be the one to fix the timeline, and except for it's still going to look different. So now we're just going to call it a visual reboot, and it's just like it's too much. My hope is that they come through and they go, yeah, what happened in Enterprise that changed the timeline? This is a totally different timeline. This isn't TNG as you would expect it, right? TNG crew, just like in the JJ verse, all the people somehow still exist. We don't ever get any butterfly effect that means that two people don't hook up and cause this kid to be born, right?
Right.
Somehow that doesn't happen, but everything else changes. And I hope that's the direction that they go. That like, yes, the TNG crew will still exist, but the Enterprise D doesn't look that way anymore.
Yeah, that's
right?
that's kind of what I'm hoping to.
And that when we see the Picard series, there will be like an Enterprise F or whatever.
Yeah.
And it won't look like the Enterprise F that we know, quote unquote, in canon from Star Trek Online. It'll look different. He might have flashbacks to the Enterprise E and the Enterprise E or the Enterprise D, and they won't look the same, just like they're bringing back like the TOS Enterprise for Discovery. I don't see how they don't have a set of being on the Enterprise D.
Right.
Or the E in the Picard series, and it will look different. So then they could wrap it all up and be like, no, it's a different timeline. Like, that's the way I hope that they go, because that worked for the JJ verse. The problems I have with the JJ verse are totally in terms of like, I don't like what they did in the darkness with the story, and I just don't think the Enterprise looks good. But the idea that it went off in a different timeline, I was like, this is great, because then you can give us these characters, but in new settings and new stories and the new visual style that 100% makes sense. I hope that's what they do with Discovery.
Yeah.
I feel like they're not, because they've been doing all these other things. Like they've made such a big deal about bringing Pike in. They've made such a big deal about showing the D7. They made a big deal in this episode about saying, hey, we'll never have holographic communications again. That it feels like they're trying to wrap it into what we know as the prime timeline. But then, like, it's still not right. So you can't have it both ways. And I worry they're going to try to do both ways. I would just wish they would pick the path and go, this is a different timeline. Everything looks different. All the characters are the same, just like the Mirror Universe. All the characters are the same.
And to be fair, this is the kind of bullshit you get into when you do prequels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, which is why I said even back in 2003
yes, yeah.
with Enterprise, I didn't want it.
I hear you. But we'll just have to see.
I even think that honestly, my opinion is the problem is TOS. TOS is the one that stands out as not looking futuristic.
Sure, I know, but we know why. So
because even the motion picture, even watching the motion picture or Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, you could still do prequels to those.
Yes.
And it could still look technologically advanced because by those movies they had touchscreens and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's in flat screens and all that stuff. It really is just TOS, because it wasn't just that it was in the 60s. It was also that it was so low budget.
For sure.
That's the one that stands out. And, for me, that doesn't bother me so much because I'm not a TOS fan.
It seems that way.
TOS fan. Well, okay. I don't know how to respond to that. but it does affect. I'm here being an advocate for Star Trek fans. I'm totally fine with them saying this is a visual reboot and it's in Prime Universe.
Yeah.
I just feel like, but then take the shackles off and like say that these are Birds of Prey and they just look different, because that's the way Gene Roddenberry worked.
Yeah.
When the motion picture came out and the Klingons looked different, they didn't have smooth heads, and they was asked about it, he was just like, yeah, I didn't have the money for it back then. Just use your imagination. This is what they were always supposed to look like, right? Same thing with the grills, right? The warp nacelles. They were always supposed to be illuminated blue, and he was like, we didn't have the money to put blue lights in the ship, in the model, so now we do. So they have them. Use your imagination, right? That would have been one thing. What I hate is them trying to just not make a decision. What I hate is them being like, no, I'm going to retcon it, and it works because this and this and that, and they started that with Enterprise, and they're doing it with Discovery, and it's like, but ironically, this is the thing people didn't like about Enterprise when it was on, but now 10 years later, people are like, oh, I like Enterprise. The same, I just think the same thing's going to happen with Discovery. All the people that are talking now, like, oh, I don't like it. 10 years from now, they'll be like, when it's not on anymore, and we're going through another Star Trek drought. Yeah. They'll be like, oh, man, I'm going back and watch Discovery. It's way better than I thought it was back then. Yeah, but it wasn't it, right? So, but me personally, and I hope we see what happens with the guy from Calypso, Funny Face. I hope, from the short Trek. Yeah. Hope we see what happens with him. I hope we see what happens with Terry Elysium. I just hope they wrap up the story of Discovery with the short treks and give us some explanation of visual reboot or a different timeline. And I hope it's different timeline. Well, that's been it for our review of Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 13, Such Sweet Sorrow. Now it comes for the housekeeping. Like I said, we typically record this live every week after the episode airs. Of course, there's only one episode left of the season. But hopefully look for us Thursday night around 9:30, where we'll be live on youtube.com, Casual Notion, recording this review of the finale live. And starting tomorrow, well, assuming I get this video up tonight, but starting tomorrow, we're going to start with our Game of Thrones reviews, and it's going to be the same deal. So after Game of Thrones airs, hopefully like 15 to 20 minutes later, we're going to be live on YouTube, youtube.com, Casual Notion, reviewing the episode in a similar format to this. And so if you want to see that content, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you like our discussion, go ahead and like this video. Comment, what do you expect to see in the season finale? How do you hope they retcon things or make things match? And also, you can follow us on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Casual Notion. We do some stuff there. We haven't done anything this week, but we do some stuff there, some gameplay stuff every once in a while. And follow us on our social media, facebook.com/Casual Notion. We finally got that name change in, thankfully. Instagram.com/Casual Notion and Twitter.com/Casual Notion. That's where we will announce if we can't record live.
Sure.
So I put it on our Twitter account yesterday that we weren't going to be going live. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Did you mention Game of Thrones?
I mentioned Game of Thrones.
Excellent. No, it's everything. Yeah.
10:15. Yeah.
Excellent.
Going to be reviewing Game of Thrones. I have so much work I got to do before that.
Yeah, and we'll have Jeremy and Haley joining us. So we'll have 4 people.
Oh, Jeremy's doing it too?
He's really excited. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I'd be on Discord.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there'll be 4 of us then.
Yeah.
All right, for Game of Thrones. All right. So until then, or until next week's episode, keep it casual, everyone.
See you guys. Bye.